folks, if we could call the meeting to order. Did we get right at it? First, let us improve the minutes from the last meeting. If someone would make a motion to do so.
So moved.
We have a motion. In a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Passes. The draft report you have in front of you is a product of collaboration between Mike and I. Like I said in the cover note, that we had not worked out every single detail, but we wanted to make sure this got in front of you a day in advance so that we could have a good discussion this evening. So this is really an open forum for your commentary on those things you'd like to see changed. We are prepared this evening, if the changes that we have are reasonable to make in one evening, someone here who can type those changes into the document, print it for signature. So we're ready to do that if the circumstances permit. If we have suggestions and proposals for a change, then I would suggest we discuss it, and then we'll use the simple voting process that we've used before to determine whether it becomes a change or not a change. So with that, I really open it up to you folks to comment. And perhaps starting at the beginning, the introduction, which was simply meant to be a backdrop for it. Anything that you'd like to discuss there that's of concern? I'm sorry?
Page 1.
In where it says introduction.
Okay. Yes, I have a pen.
Okay. Could you use the microphone, please?
Yes, Joan Shield. A change would be to where it says provide input on services and program priorities, end a statement there, and start a new bullet point with identify potential cost savings.
Okay. I don't think that changes the, it's easy to do that. I don't think that. The reason for doing it the way it is it's exactly the way it is in the resolution.
Right.
The way I had it is exactly the way it is in the resolution with an and. In
other words, it would be 5, isn't there?
In other words, it would be 5 dots.
Right.
Okay. Is anybody opposed to that? That's a pretty easy change to make. Is there anything else in that introductory section that you'd like to suggest be changed?
Joan Shield again. I'm not really too sure about the information where it says the city council subcommittee, so forth. We have no way of knowing whether that happened or didn't happen.
That's correct. It did happen.
I looked at videos and I didn't see it, so it must have been a side meeting.
Their meeting wasn't.
It wasn't televised. The subcommittee of 3 wasn't televised.
Okay.
Under recommendations, and let me point out first an error on my part. It was a cut and paste that then ended up being duplicative. So in the first employee compensation benefits, the A, B, C, D are just essentially repeated below, and that would simply be X'd out. So that's just an error on my part in posting.
Which one? Yeah.
I'm talking about number 1. The A, B, C, D ones are just crossed out.
Oh, okay.
The others simply stated more thoroughly. Yes.
Monica Stigler, going back to page 2 in the last paragraph, talked about how the dots were used. And I guess I'm not completely sure on how we use the dots. At the last meeting, I clearly understood that the 2 red were your top priorities.
Yes.
And that the remaining green could be used however you wanted them to.
That's correct.
And there was some discussion about whether or not the dark green was going to indicate revenue generating or not.
That's correct.
Did we say that it was? Because that's how it's reflected in this report.
Did we say that it was what?
That the 2 dark greens that we should have used as revenue generating ideas? Or we were just scattering the remaining green around?
Just
No, what we said was they were added for the purpose of the revenue, But you could use them any way you wanted to if you didn't want to spend them on revenue, yes.
Okay, because it seems here in this write-up that the dark green dots represented the revenue only.
Why don't you say it just the way you just said it
Yeah.
instead
Right.
of the way you've got it?
Well,
yeah.
absolutely, no problem. So going back to number 1, if we could, please. Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Marvin Fair. On the first bullet item, I thought that we agreed that the furloughs would not apply to police and safety personnel, and there was no mention of that here.
I don't think there was ever an agreement that that would be the case. I'm open to it if that's a proposal someone wants to make and you can vote on it, but I don't think it was specifically that, and I think there were some people who in fact did not want to have that. So
I think that will defeat the purpose of having furlough for police officers and firefighters. Because if that's the case, then we have to pay them overtime, and that completely defeats the purpose of having furlough for them.
But I think, Mike, what did our people say? Mike Kiak?
Yeah, there are different opinions in the write-up and in some of the material I reviewed. That some people were very specific about that, some people were not. For me, the thing that came across for me is that's just the whole title. After we had talked through it last week, the title I had written was "Reduce Employee Compensation / Benefits Based on Comparative Compensation Methods for Employees of City Governments." In other words, there were different ways that benefits could be changed or reduced. And so I tried to capture it as, here's a spectrum of activity, but not necessarily identifying or including or excluding any one group based on the different inputs that I had reviewed. So I had written it to fundamentally say that we want the city to take a look at compensation and benefits because of the fact that it is the largest cost component of the budget. Adding additional clarification, that's up to the committee as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
I was trying to get the broadest possible inclusion of the comments of the committee members overall.
and most of it, too, didn't we talk about that it wasn't so much the people at lower levels of salary, it was the higher levels of management?
Correct.
Correct.
But I think there were different views on that also. I think that was not a group decision. per se.
But I saw multiple occurrences of people talking about a graduated pay reduction.
The graduated pay reductions, yes. Yeah.
Do you have copies of what you put together?
This is all in, everything that Mike said is word for word in here.
Mike, is everything you said word per word?
The sub-bullets look pretty similar, but there's some other stuff that it was not.
Well,
Can we see what you put together?
let me just, I'll tell you what we've got. The comments were all written by me. The bullets, unless I added to them, were cut and paste from Mike's work.
But I would like to see what Mike put together.
Oh, sure.
Let me ask a basic question. I guess, and this is part of my struggle in terms of what I was working through. What is the purpose of this report? Is it you have a contractual obligation to provide the city some form of a report out of completion of your work? Is this solely for purposes of presentation to the city council? In all fairness, I guess.
Right.
I guess I may have made the wrong assumption relative to what we were trying to do here. So
Well, let me tell you my viewpoint. The only reason that I wrote these comments at all was to give them contextual framework. And as I mentioned to you, I'm not wed to them. I simply thought that the contextual framework added to their understanding of the question of the comments that followed. That's the only reason. There is nothing. I don't submit this. You submit it. And so this is not my report. This is your report to the council that you'll present to the council. I'm a facilitator, and as a facilitator, that struck me that framework added to an understanding of the bullet points.
And that's where my confusion came in, because in an attempt to try to clarify or summarize from your perspective, Dick, I'm concerned that the voice of the committee members may have gotten lost. And so I told Dick straight out, I said, we could continue to go back and forth, but I felt the best thing to do was to put it out for you guys to see. Simply because of the fact that I didn't want to get in a situation where it was pride of authorship on my part, where I was trying to do the same thing Dick was trying to do and trying to represent the events of the last couple of months, that I didn't want to write over the top of somebody's voice that's here as a part of this committee. My attempt was literally to go back and add additional language. Literally, I'm honest, I plagiarized what other people said or wrote as a part of the write-up, and try not to reinvent or try to spin something that was from my observation, if you will, but try to keep it in the context of the comments you guys provided to me. The concern I have with the commentary is that, and I still have to a certain degree, is it confusing that the kind of the core things that we agree on as a committee, or is it truly clarifying? That's the question that I'm come to you with tonight. I mean, I want to represent your interests. I want to make sure I'm capturing your comments in terms of as individuals and as a group. But frankly, I got to the point where I started losing the bubble, where I really wasn't sure we were really getting it by adding more in.
Please understand that if you take all those out, I will in no way be concerned in any fashion. This has to fit your interests of what you want to share with the council, and I only intended to help frame that. Yes, sir. And then over here.
Marvin Fair, would it be possible, in order to clarify where we stand on police and fire, to actually put it to a vote as to whether to include an exemption in the language?
I don't think you need to put it to a vote. If that's what the committee wants, we'll just put it in. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Right, but you did say there was diversifying opinions. I'm not sure everybody would agree to that, but
You're right.
and the only way to clarify it is to vote on it.
I think it would be the easiest thing, since we're sitting right here and we can say yes or no in a flash, that it might be easier to do those kinds of, do it by vote. But yes, sir.
Well, Howard Bryan.
Sorry, excuse me,
Yeah.
Howard.
Alisario, I'm a little confused on this in terms of presentation. Am I to assume that these 3 or 4 pages, it's going to be presented to the city council with our signatures on it?
You will present whatever you come up with to the city council. You will present it.
These comments, they may or may not be there?
It's up to you.
Okay.
I created the comments with the intention that it might be useful in framing the comments that followed. And if it doesn't add to the message you'd like to share with the council, take them out, because there is no pride of authorship. There is only the desire to be useful.
And the red and the green dots, that would not be included?
Yes, it would.
It would be, and they would understand that?
They would, because in the preface, in the introduction,
It's explained. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So just not fairness too. I mean, if you don't like the way the bullets are written, they can be changed, modified, or conversely, they could be thrown out as well. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm still on Martin's comment. What I recall was that we discussed in the meeting item number 6 and item number 22 were the ones that we exempted law and public safety from, but not any others. Although I do recall during the meeting there were some comments about that there were several people who said they felt that, in fact, that when we did the roundtable,
Yes.
that was one of the items that I remember capturing, was that more than one person said it shouldn't apply to fire and police. Now, I'll give you my own opinion. My own opinion is that we voted on these in the form that they were, which was one of the reasons I argued to get them in forms that we liked. And once you've made those votes, I mean, when you make a vote on something, if it said on that one, but never touch police and fire, instead of getting 8 red, you might have only got 4 red, right? So to me, any significant changes like that to any of these, especially the bullets, it throws the whole thing into question, in my opinion.
That's a good point.
That's my opinion.
Good point.
It would have been a substantively different question last week. Other comments, please. Yes.
Monica Stigler. For the record, I do think having the comments beneath the bullet points, it adds to the conversation. The council isn't privy unless they go back and listen to all of our recorded videos about the conversations that we had that night that would have caused us to recommend these things. So I do find it helpful, and I think what might be more helpful is to expand on those just a little bit more and include if someone's feeling like their intentions or their reasons that they voted a particular way are not included in the comment section, to add those into the comments to really shape the conversation. But I do think having the conversation listed is really helpful to frame the reasons as to why we voted in a particular way.
Thank you. I would remind us that attached to whatever report you ultimately land on will be a volume of reference material about individual inputs. The go-around you did, the brainstorming on revenue will all be included in as an addendum to this. It won't be a specific connection like you suggested, but it'll be there. Yes, ma'am.
Joan Shield. Mike, did you happen to bring copies for each one of us to look at of what you put together?
I have my original input. If the city could make a copy, we could make copies.
I think that would be very helpful for us because you went over our actual input to bring those together.
It's up to you guys. I mean, if it helps you, I'm glad to pass copies out.
I would
Mike,
like a
Mike, do you think your stuff is not represented fairly in this?
Well,
I guess I'm kind of. I hear Joan's question over here, and I'm wondering. I mean, you're the one that put the document together as well. You sent your information over. I mean, do you not see? Do you see there's large enough chunks in here that are missing, with the exception of just like specific,
The uncertainty for me is I did not input the comments. And my concern is, are the comments accurately reflecting what you as a committee member express or believe? The bullets I mined out of material that was put in front of me.
Okay.
But the comments fundamentally are some of it's opinion.
Did you send comments over, or
Yeah.
did you just have so you sent comments over as well?
I wrote up my particular section. Well, my understanding of the exercise walking away was to take the summary level items, and for the first 5 that were the most significant to us, develop some sub-bullets to provide more clarity or meaning or clarification associated with that item. And so I broke it down. So the first 5, I've got a lot of detail. The next 5, I've got a little less. And then anything above number 15 in priority, I just listed the bullets, and that's it.
Okay.
So the idea was, as I understood it, the exercise was to add some more specifics behind what was there. So if fundamentally you agree with the commentary that's there, that's fine. My problem was that I didn't feel like I could necessarily speak for the committee and come to the same conclusions that Dick did.
Okay.
So it's not. Don't misunderstand. I'm not saying something's right or something's wrong. I'm just saying some of the things that are written into the comments are Dick's opinion.
And understand, I only wrote the comments. Everything else is cut and paste, word for word, unless I found some minor grammatical thing, which there may not have been any. But this is just cut and paste. And
Yeah.
I guess the question, before we go out and make copies of of this, Mike, is really the question is, did I miss something in the cut and paste? The only thing I found was I put one in twice, but I've corrected that. But it's simply cut and paste. None of the dot points are mine.
So zero base, I did say on the very last sub-bullet, establish and maintain comparative performance metrics. I did say, for example, a balanced scorecard.
Is that
Which one
for
is that, please?
for the second number one?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And I had written that actually down,
Okay.
that last bullet, because I was wondering what the name of that system, because I know we discussed, that was discussed.
So restructure current debt. My input was reduce PIC series bonds for 2008 spring training facilities with general obligation funds and rainy day funds.
I've got the balanced scorecard on mine. Do you not have it on? I have in parentheses,
Am I looking at the wrong
comma,
thing?
balanced scorecard. You don't have it?
We're talking about make sure
We're
we're talking about the same one.
fifth dot under the second one. So there's those two
Top of
tied.
The fourth dot.
I'm sorry.
Top of page 4.
The one that stands all by itself on the next page. Established and maintain comparative performance metrics for each city department, and then it stops.
Okay, well, all right. What I'm holding in my hand is a different iteration. And you don't show it, or you do show it? You don't show it, okay. I'm sorry about that. So that, we'll just add that in. This is the most recent.
Want to just keep going?
Yeah, I'll keep going. Okay. All right, fine. So the issue that happens from here is the very first bullet under each of the items is effectively the heading for the area. So, for example, number 2, restructure current debt, the first sub-bullet, restructure current debt, was intended to be the title. So that first bullet can be eliminated because it's intended to be the title that's above. Number 3, same situation.
Are you getting these? Okay.
Can we just get copies so we can follow along? I think it would be a little easier.
Why don't we get Joan a copy if she wants?
That might put together.
I think, here, let me just suggest, you can just cross, so it looks like, Mike, we can cross out the top one in each category.
Not in everyone. Not in everyone.
Well, it is on, let's see, it's on support economic development. It's on rainy day.
Yeah, so it's not.
Is it, enhanced stadium revenues?
Understand, but-
It's not in that one, right?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not in the enhanced stadium revenues, right?
City manager
Second
said
dot,
if you
yeah.
ask for the copies. I can't ask for the copies, but if you ask for copies, city manager.
Okay, I see, certainly.
We'll just ask who would like a copy, and then you just make
Yeah,
that.
okay, so who would like a copy?
I need more copies.
2?
I do. 3.
Why not? Well, how many 2, 3, and 4?
Right. Well, the reduced service level of pickup, it's on.
Yeah, the 7 looks like it's a duplication.
Yeah.
It's like all the way through.
What I did was I just
It looks
picked
like
up the
it's
list and dropped it in there, and better to have been repetitive than to,
Makes it smaller.
9,
Right.
I modified the title of the item from cut operations cost to being more specific, and using the paperless and postage-free as a clarifier on the title.
okay.
So I modified the...
So that would be a fair one to leave as a dot point, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
Okay. Yes, sir?
Alice Serio. Back to 9. Looks like if you take out that first bullet,
I'm sorry?
are you taking out the first bullet?
I don't think so, because it's different than the,
Because it is different than the second one.
right.
Because the second one should also have paperless postage, in addition to in focus.
And so right.
So let's look at anything that involves paper or postage.
Okay.
And just so happens, because other people referenced other things, like all this budgeting material that the city prepares, okay? Could you theoretically print it or post it to an archive, as opposed to, printing 500 copies of the budget book, if you will? I saw different inputs along that line. The number 10, Dick, your title, and the first bullet under my write-up was intended to be my version of the title.
Okay.
So I understood raise property tax to maintain the current levels of revenue, regardless of how you got there, whether it be making adjustments to primary or secondary. Fundamentally, you're trying to maintain the property tax revenue in a way that offsets the effects of changes in assessed valuation.
I see.
That was the input, along with the scribbles I had in terms of changing the subject of the title.
Okay. And I thought that the intent, so I missed that simply because I thought it was a distinct recommendation. I think when it was voted on and included sort of make sure we take advantage of the annual tax levy increase, predominantly in primary, but
Yeah, that's written exactly how it's written
Right.
there in blue.
right,
Right.
Right.
To represent what
And that was the
what idea
intention, to
we
make
voted
sure
on, right.
that we. So we can just we leave that dot there, or do you want to propose that we change that, Mike?
I want it written in a way that the city can actually implement. I mean, that was the, Larry, I'm looking at you because that's,
I think the primary is the only thing they can commit to do, if I'm not mistaken, Larry.
Dick, I'm sorry, on number 10, if we just say maintain current revenues and eliminate before that, because we're saying it in the first bullet point.
Where are you talking about doing that? In the title, you mean? Because we
Right,
don't want
in
to
the
mess
title.
with we want to avoid messing with the titles if we
Yeah.
can.
and
You voted on the specific language.
All right, so if we just say in the first bullet, raise property tax rate.
The only thing I would suggest, folks, since you covered it, was primary tax, because that's essentially the only thing you can raise, and then only consistent with the laws of the state that limit primary tax growth to a certain base and a certain annual increase.
I think number 10 is fine. That's just my opinion, the way it made sense to me when I read through it, so.
Can we move to 11? I mean, I think the message is clear in 10. Yes?
I still have a couple of
Yes, sir.
questions. Marvin Fair.
Yes, sir.
Going back to page 3, I'm confused. You never really did explain, why do we have two number 1s?
They were tied. And it seems that that's still confusing, so I think when we send this forward, I was thinking of like in a sports thing, if people tie, then the next one's number 3. That's just too confusing. So, perfect world, it would be that way, but we'll just number them 1 through 15, and I think it's going to be easier on people. That was just an attempt to make sure it was seen as a tie.
Okay.
Or you can do a 1A, 1B.
Okay.
Now, I'm also confused, going back to that first number 1, with regard to police and safety, because what I'm confused about is if there is a furlough and the departments have to comply with that, does that create more expenditures in overtime if there is a need for them, or do they just walk off the job when they run out of time? I'm not sure how that will work.
I think that the presumption, excuse me, please, Charles.
Yeah, well, I investigated a couple of police departments, and what they do is it's 2 days, 6 days a year, and 2 days during a 2-month period, and it's done by the department in such a way that it doesn't interfere with the daily duties. They have overlap. Every department has overlap, and it works with their overlap, so it doesn't affect coverage and that kind of stuff. And they can very well do that here because they have a lot of overlap here.
And then lastly, the only other comment that I had on number 3 on page 4,
Yes, sir.
there are some suggestions listed. There are four bullets.
Yes, sir.
There's another bullet brought up, and somehow it never got added, although I think people tended to want to support that, and that is whenever there is an EMT service to an incident, that they should bill for that service to the health insurance company. I'm not sure how to express that verbally.
This was a dot point under economic development?
Yes.
you sure that shouldn't have been under 13? Because there's a whole
Okay.
lot of miscellaneous cats and dogs buried in the,
Okay.
and that could have been one of the points as under other.
It could very well, sure, it would fit under 13, but could it be expressed more clearly, though? Because
Sure, yeah. Yes.
What is it, recovery of?
recovery of the cost by billing the insurance company for anything that requires the parametrics.
You're talking about a dot point ad. Does anybody, if we put in there cost recovery of, where possible, for medical services? EMT services? I know it's somewhere in the mix. It just didn't pop up, I think, for either of us as a top item. But do you have a problem with adding a dot point there, folks? We'll add that, okay?
We're on 13.
That's correct. And it shouldn't be A, B, C, D. It'll be dot, 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 dot. Cost recovery. Thank you. We were, I believe, on 10, about there. This one, are we okay with the way this is worded? Any other concern with that? And no new debt for 2010, 2011? You know, Mike, like on that one, it doesn't strike me that that does any harm at all to have that dot point somewhat repeat the title with a little more emphasis on the end.
No, I agree.
And I'm not trying to rush in any fashion. It's up to you. 12 was the billboards along major rights of way. I remember the discussion very well, and I remember it being representative clearly of the billboards, but also that it created a conversation about using imaginative ways to seek new revenues. That was the intention of what I put into the comment section, because I think the electronic billboard was an extraordinary single point, but you also encouraged a lot of others.
Will we be able to go over all of these kind of again, since we've been skipping around and looking at titles and doing things like this? Because there's a couple of places where I think just verbiage and like eliminating frozen positions on number 8, as well as not immediate financial gain. That when you take money out for a position, there is an immediate financial gain.
Well, these positions are unfunded, so consequently they're not being spent.
Well, I thought we were told that they were budgeted, since they were budgeted, budget money was set aside or budgeted for their salaries. So they are included in the budget.
They were not budgeted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not the.
So the advantage, and that struck me at the time as being, if you get them off the page altogether, it's harder to bring them back on. They have to cover a certain hurdle to do so.
But that's okay. On the stadium, enhanced stadium revenues, I do not see where we suggested that the person that a private consultant hired, or we turn one of the city employees into a private consultant and have them have a base salary and then a performance bonus. And that was enhanced stadium revenues, and the way of doing it, running it as kind of a profit and loss, like a business.
I see that on number 5 you're talking about, Joan?
Right.
I see. I mean, it's meant possibilities exist for both privatization and some components of the operation if cost savings can be achieved. I see that in the comments, the privatization that you're referring to.
The second bullet, I was trying to capture the thought process of fundamentally changing the management approach. And management approach is...
It's a different
right.
philosophy.
And so the management approach, more of a model of a profit and loss
Right.
versus managing it like a city department. That's the takeaway I took out of the comments.
Right.
And that's what's in there.
That's what the second bullet was attempting to try to capture, is that it's
He has it in the third bullet.
I'm sorry. My second bullet.
Well, we've taken out that one in between, so
Yes.
it's now the official second bullet. You see,
Because city departments typically aren't run as P&Ls.
So that third.
did that cover
third
that
bullet's
for
good.
you then?
So let me just recap.
I'm sorry, I want to make sure we don't, what clarity is it that you
Well,
want
I
to
mean,
see?
it's just the way we had stated it when we talked about it. It was very, Howard had placed it as being very clear that we would, the model model that we would look at for revenue generating for the stadium was to either take one of our own employees and turn him into a private consultant, or hire a private consultant on their own and base their salary on a bonus, on a salary and plus bonus.
Yeah, and Howard Broderick, while I feel like that's a good idea, I do remember that I asked the group if they would add that, and nobody wanted to do that. Nobody actually wanted to add that, so I'm comfortable with that last bullet. That it might not say it exactly the way I would say it, but I mean, there's a lot in here I wouldn't say the same way, but there's nothing in here that really disturbs me, so.
They might arrive at that very same conclusion, with that process. Yes, sir.
I'm ready to recap whenever
Okay.
here we are.
Did you have something, Scott? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I guess, there's 2 points that I wanted to make. Number one, I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but with public safety on that on the first one that Marvin was talking about, is that something that would then, should it made its way on the comments then, since when you make comments on the reduce employee compensation benefits, and when we run around, I know there was more than a couple mentions of that, that it should at least make it on the comment section. That
And I would say if we wanted to put something in there like, and there are a number of people on the committee who feel the public service safety thing should not be cut, I would say that would be fine with me. I don't know how other people.
But not as a specific change to the recommendation.
Yeah, I don't think we can change the.
No, I don't. I agree with Howard with the vote. I mean, that
would be
that
easy.
changes. However, I think that is an important point that I think, because I know it was more than a couple people that had stated that, and I think that should be something represented in the comments that set up some context as far as the discussion.
So we said in the comments, something like a number of people indicated, and you know, that it, proper language, something like that. A number of people indicated that this should not apply, preferred that this should not apply to public safety.
That sounds good to me. It's up. I mean, if it sounds good. I mean, Howard said okay, and Marvin's nodding his head. And if anybody else has,
Well, I think
that sounds.
note,
I would prefer to see that in the comment.
In the comment section, it has less weight than trying to change the title and the fundamental.
Well, right, and I don't think we can go back because of the vote anyway. Right. So I think yes in the comments.
Is that okay, folks? Anybody have any problem with that? It certainly was discussed, and it certainly is legitimate.
And there is one last thing with the reduced employee compensation benefits that I wanted to point out. If you go all the way, page 8, it's number 19. It says engage employees in identifying cost reduction scenarios. That's one thing I was trying to kind of fight for to get on the overall thing when we're talking about all these possible reductions, is involving the employees in discussing this. And so that, I guess in a way, there's one more thing I'm looking at possibly adding into the comments then, since I don't want to change the whole, add another bullet to it. But I know that is one other thing that was said a couple times as we went around the round table when we were discussing reductions and stuff like that, as far as involving the employees. And so I guess I'm looking for one more addition to the comments on that section. But that's my opinion.
I object to that because that was an item that we all could have voted on as something that was important to us. So let's start changing the comments to add stuff that I want too. I mean, I think you're getting out in the weeds here myself. So that's just my thought. But it did stand on its own merits for a vote. That's my position on it. So I think if we start slipping stuff in here and making some changes, then I get concerned. I also think that maybe the comment section should be completely removed from these and put in as an addendum, and let the power of the bullet points stand on their own. And then if council wants to see the comments intent, they can go and read that. So just a thought as well. So if we're going to get way off in the weeds here.
Well, engaging employees in identifying, what was that? It didn't even receive one dot.
Yes, sir, Ed.
Ed Smith, regards to your comment on the identifying employees and the cost reduction, we discussed that when we were grouping them together over there and said that it wasn't really a part of reducing the employee benefits, but it was important enough to stand on its own. And so I think that's why we left it that way. If I remember correctly, that's what we had voted on or decided that night when we grouped them all together, because it was asked about including it then, and we decided that was the other way around on it. And this way it stands separate, but doesn't include, the same type of thing.
I have a question, Dick. In doing reports previously, when I'm looking at a heading and then I'm looking at bullet points, the comments, I believe, should be the last thing that is said there, not above the bullet points.
I would agree with that.
That's fine, yeah. Very good.
I agree the comments are important, though, because the city council, just looking at the bullet points, I think the comments will kind of clarify a little bit for them, because they're going to discuss these things, and I think they need the comments to help clarify some of their thoughts.
Yes, sir. Are you okay with that, folks? We'll just move the primary point, your specific comments, and then the framework below it.
Can I go back through and just reconcile one pass, just so I make sure that I answer the original question? What are the differences? Yeah. Okay. On item number 1, A, B, C, D, I recommend you delete. Because it's redundant with the bullets below. The second number 1, add the balance scorecard after the last bullet. That came up multiple times in multiple presentations.
Right.
Item number 2.
Mike, could you please use the microphone?
Thanks. Sure. Sorry about that. Okay, so number 1, eliminate the ABCD. The second number 1 going forward, on the last bullet, there should be a parentheses that says, for example, balance scorecard. Number 2, restructure debt, eliminate the first sub-bullet. Number 3, support economic development, delete the first sub-bullet. Number 4, adjust rainy day fund, delete the first sub-bullet. Number 5, enhance stadium revenues, delete the second sub-bullet. Number 6, suspend capital projects, delete the first major sub-bullet that says suspend capital project improvement except for, and then the two bullets below that then come up as 2 main bullets. Then number 7, reduce or eliminate the first sub-bullet under reduce service level. Number 8, eliminate frozen positions, delete the first sub-bullet. Number 10, assess primary property tax levy, delete the first sub-bullet. Number 11, no new debt, delete the first sub-bullet. Number 12, billboard, delete the first sub-bullet. Number 13, delete the ABCD, again duplicated below. And Marvin, if we were going to add something else, we need to come back and readdress that under the suggestions. Number 14, I would delete the first sub-bullet under selling naming rights. And then number 15, I would move down now under the general recommendation section. And then resequence the first 15 accordingly. Then we'd be synced up.
Perfect. Now, I want to make sure on selling name, or excuse me, on considering new fees, I think there was a concurrence that the item that Marvin brought up was acceptable to put in there. That was cost recovery on the medical services issues. Okay. Yeah, and renumber them makes it work much better.
Howard Broadbeck. So I would suggest that Dick and Mike go up and work with the lady with the computer right now to get this done so we can print it and sign it, if everybody's okay with that. Unless anybody has other comments.
One more comment. There are a few grammatical errors that I've highlighted, so you can.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a couple of them there.
Thank you. I've caught a couple of them, but I think
They're all circled.
Howard, I have a question, and you can help me with this. It's on number 6, where it says suspend capital projects unless for public safety or revenue recovery. And I thought we had revenue generating. Recovery means you're trying to go back and recapture something, generating being something new. I don't know.
But he does say, in the bullet, he calls it revenue generation within 10, 11, or 11, 12. So, I mean, I wouldn't worry about it being either way.
Okay.
I wouldn't object to it being either way.
Did you catch this?
I beg your pardon, sir?
This one, if you caught this.
No, I didn't, but I'll make sure that that's caught. Space and increase. Is that okay, Joan?
Yeah. Comfortable with it, I am.
We'll work on that right now. Yes, sir.
Were we going to renumber these from?
Yes, sir. 1 through 15, we will take out the double 1. I got.
Put 15 and 16 down.
We'll put 15, 16 will drop down to where it belongs on that. Yes, sir. Let us take our swing at this. Yes, sir.
Nope. Doesn't say much for the privacy.
8.
Okay. Yeah, I have those.
You already have the double quotes too, right?
Good.
This thing about restructured debt, I'm not, there isn't anybody from the committee.
Actually, it's reducing file, too. Yeah. Withdrawing, I don't know which one.
In the band. In the band. That's perfect. I was like, he's got it.
Actually, to a lower amount.
Yeah, I got a lot going on that day, but we'll see.
Huh?
I got a lot going on that day, but I'll see what we can do.
Hey, it doesn't cost me anything to send. And we get paid whether
Something did happen.
Anybody, that's right.
It's nice to play a full house. We went to a place. It was a benefit, so we took a low price to do it because we're just starting out. We started in like December. We started playing practicing. Benefit for the
So there's somebody else
shelter.
typing out.
Yep.
They have a really nice community center. They built a stage. So we show up as the one guy, we're one of those people in the community there, and only if the insurance company, he comes in and he goes, and they schedule us for 3 hours. Starting at 6 o'clock, but we could come at 5 and they gave us a free dinner. That was part of the deal. By the way, their dinner was really good with barbecue. So we go out there at, we're there at 5. There's like 5 people there. It gets to be, we have our dinner, it gets to be 6 o'clock. There's 20 people there.
We have discussed.
One guy says, yeah, I got to tell you, they also scheduled a call for today for the same benefit. He said, at least 14 customers showed up. So I don't know how they advertise it. So anyway, there's like 25, 30 people in this room, literally as big as this room, and we're playing. And we played until the first set, and then we took our 10-minute break. And, 15 people left. There's like a dozen people there. So we get up and start playing, and then we played for a few more songs, and then most of the people started just.
Well, that's when they would hand out the
We got finished with the second set, and break, and the guy came running to the well. Now it's like 8:30. I don't think anybody else is doing it. So he says, "You guys are free to go if you want. I know we didn't pay you much anyway." So we said, "Well, can we just use the hall?" And the guy says, yeah, here's the key. Make sure it's locked when you leave. We played for another 2 hours just by ourselves. We had a great time. We practiced, right? We just played.
I have a friend who's got a restaurant there in Salome.
Huh?
Got a friend who's got a restaurant there in Salome.
Oh, in Salome there's a restaurant? Oh, I might never been actually in the city of Salome. I've just been to that community center. But is it on Route 60? Is Salome on Route 60?
I don't know exactly where it's at.
It might be south from where I go to the community center. I've been to Wendell. Yeah, Wendell.
Make it bigger.
Make it bigger, yeah. Oh, rats. This is the as large as I can get and get the whole page in. If you'd like me to make it larger and keep sliding it up, that's great. Just tell me what you'd like.
Make it larger. I only have one eye, so I can't see.
A lot of us are old people.
Is that working better, Joan? I can't make it much larger or I lose the edges.
Okay. I'm not turning my back to you.
And would you just go ahead and tell me when it's safe to move the page up so I don't miss anything?
I feel good.
You look good.
Okay?
Okay.
Oh boy, don't look at the screen. Backwards. And while you're looking at this, the signature sheet is being prepared. Okay. Page 1. Page 2. Okay. That's to the bottom. And it moved the dot points. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. Okay?
No, not quite. I'm a one-eyed reader and a little slower. But you can go up to 2. Like going forward, you can move up.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know where you're.
Past tense, tense error. Didn't say established.
We're at third bullet on number 2, establish, not established.
I know, I let you down.
You got it, Joan?
Double quotes are still not fixed. We're doing the run rate.
Number
base.
3.
Last
Oh,
sentence.
last sentence of number 2. Run rate, take the quote after base out. Is it okay, Joan?
Yes. No, I just kind of see, so I don't want to.
Okay. Say when.
Okay.
Beg your pardon? Joan? I'm going to use you as the bellwether, Joan, okay? You just tell me when you... No, I'm not. I just want to make sure I don't shortchange you. If you just tell me when you're ready, I respect that.
Pardon? I'm good through 9. Okay. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I had it in my other hand. Darn it.
It's your turn to throw us off, Deb. Just checking to see if we're awake. Right?
I got to ask, should we delete the primary and secondary ones there?
I beg your pardon?
I'm just asking clarification from Larry. Should we delete the word primary/secondary? Just say make adjustments to tax rate to maintain property tax revenue and we offset the effective change. Offset that. Can I take out primary and secondary? You still get the meaning to what needs to be done.
If the committee understands, it's okay. The only problem I've ever had is council doesn't set rates.
They set a levy, right?
Huh?
A levy?
They levy taxes.
Right.
So, but I don't, the more I talk, the more confusing it gets, so I didn't want to say anything. If the committee's good with it, I'm good with it.
I would recommend leaving it in.
I'll give it 11.
Okay.
I'll give it 12. Give it 13. Marvin? Second bullet, 14?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, very good. I'll give it 14. And I'll give it 15.
For 15, can you just stylistically take off the periods at the end of the suggestions if we're not going to include punctuation?
I'm sorry, but I can't hear you.
For number 15, where it says suggestions include, and each one of these bullets has a period at the end, just to maintain consistency, if we're not going to include punctuation at the other
Very good.
bullet points, we just take that out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We can also close that by one space between seats and include. So we take the period out at the end of ballpark and parks and pull it up one. You got that, Joan?
Uh-huh.
The last, or on page 6, self-naming rights, take the dot out after ballpark, take the dot out after parks. And no, I guess it can't be pulled up. I apologize. It looked like there was enough space there to need to go up, but just take those 2 dots out and you're okay. The 2 periods. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a period at the end of the statement, seats at the Goodyear Park. The bottom of page. Yes. Oh, okay. There go. Okay. This is the last page. We'll take off the simple conclusions and signature line to follow. Are you okay with that one?
I'm done.
Okay. Now, we have a signature. What we'll do is print that. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Barry Gilzer. On number 3, where you have restructure current debt, and it says this item represented a detailed proposal that was submitted by a CBC member. Are we going to have that?
That will be attached.
That'll be attached to this front executive summary?
No, that would be attached as material in the back.
Yeah, because we took that off up there. We took Larry's name off.
If you'd like, it's easy to attach it to this as an addendum.
That's the only one that refers to an attachment, and I think if we're going to suggest something, that we ought to have that sort of up front, because otherwise everything else is more generic and has general ramifications, whereas this refers to one specific item that was submitted.
This is Mike Yek. There were pieces of the input where people didn't agree with the summary level write-up. I picked apart what I thought was the specific language where I saw no disagreement, lack of a better term, with Larry's original proposal. So there were some parts of it that Larry had written up that people did not agree with. In fact, they conflicted with it. So I tried to capture what was the common denominator among members of the committee in Larry's proposal.
And when we voted by removing Larry's plan behind it. If you look up there on our list, it was scratched out.
Not everybody agreed with everything he said.
Okay. So we take out, the last page is the signature page, which just has, those of you who are here, the simple conclusion is respectfully submitted by Goodyear Citizen Budget Committee, April 14th. We are printing as we speak the final with the minor changes that you just made. This one is no longer relevant. And why don't we send that document and this signature page around momentarily.
Howard. Here, have a minute.
Yeah, Larry wanted to initial all the pages.
Well, give him a minute then.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm more curious about this finished product. What's it going to use?
Yes, well, not now, I don't think, unless you want to wait, we'll go to a copy machine. But we would post it directly.
Go green. Go green. Go green.
Dick, describe, or somebody describe what the finished product that goes to council is going to look like.
The finished product will be primarily your report. In addition to that, there will be the primary support documents, which will be your written input, each one, which we said before, we'd take the names off, but so they'd have all the input but not the names. Unless you disagree with that, we'll continue in that fashion as we did when we had it here. We will have the results of your brainstorming on the revenue potential. We'll have the comments summation of your go-around that you had, and we'll, I don't see us putting all the minutes and and all of the presentations, it would be this thick in there. But those were the primary backup documents. Was there anything else in that primary set? I think those were the primary ones that we looked at in preparing this, as well as the notes. But the notes are just too voluminous to put in there. Those things.
And will they be consecutive page numbers, 1 through 50 or 100 or whatever?
That sounds like a great idea. Yes.
Another question, Dick. Dick?
Yes, sir.
Charlie?
I'm sorry.
Are we going to put this in a nice binder for
Yes.
each one of the members?
Well, for each one of you, absolutely.
No,
At least-
each one of the members of council
And you.
and us, okay.
And we'll be presenting it on the 19th, correct?
Yes, that's the only question I had left before you. 26th, I'm sorry, 26th, yes. Before you leave is, how would you like to present that? Who will take the lead for you? I will simply be there because I'll be proud that you've got it all done.
26th.
But I won't present.
Monday the 26th.
26th, the council meeting.
I say that since Mike was doing all the work on it, and he's very articulate, that he's the one that should be doing that. And we'll be there to back you up.
I'd be honored.
Thank you.
How many are going to attend?
I am.
All right, great.
We'll make sure that everybody, even if they're not here, that has been participative, will have a copy of that information also. And you have the same binder. Pardon me, sir?
5. Well, the work session at 5?
Workshop or regular session?
5 o'clock?
So 5 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
The document, our copy, do we come down here and pick it up? I mean, can we get it before the night that we show up for
Yes,
council?
absolutely.
So it'll be at the front desk or something?
I don't know we can mail it.
Yes, mail them.
Well, you don't have to go through the cost. We can come.
We've got to assemble a lot, like you've got. Oh, yes, this specific report from tonight, posted tomorrow. Posted tomorrow, yes. Yes, and then the document itself. Yeah. Larry, I thought you were talking about the whole binder.
That's what I was talking about.
Well, you'll have that.
I want a copy of the thing that council's going to have in their
Yeah,
hands.
you'll have that well before that, but tomorrow you'll have tonight's outcome. When do you think we could have the assemblage of those binders? Monday,
And this is scheduled for the 26th.
which is the 19th, right? So you've got a week.
Wait, the meeting is on the 19th?
No, we'll have it ready for you. They'll have the report bound for you on the 19th.
Oh,
The 26th, Monday the 26th.
Oh, yeah, okay, 20, then we'll have it Tuesday.
and when is the meeting?
The 26th, the following Monday, 5 o'clock. Where is the meeting? I think it's right here.
Right here.
Right here.
So it'll be like Old Home Week. Bring your name tag.
Only you do not have to bring all your papers.
You'll have an opportunity that night to buy one of the seats back there and have your name on the back of it.
What time is the meeting, Dick? 5 o'clock.
Is that printing?
Depends on if my plane lands on
Oh,
time.
oh,
US
sorry.
Airways is on time or not.
This? You want to stay?
Where are you coming from?
Do you want to stay?
Philadelphia.
Well, that way, it's all as a unit, it's stapled. If we could pass it around, the names of the people that are here are on it. I feel like we should have I feel like we should have a special pen or something.
Yeah.
Well, no, we just need to know where you're buying the beer later.
Anywhere you want.
All right, you heard him. Well, what's on the way? All right.
That's being Goodyear, though.
Yeah, it's being good.
Marley's.
This is one of those revenue source things.
I'm more interested in
Is there
Yeah, no, I'm not voting on that.
at our park? And how much is it costing again?
Signing.
Oh, okay.
Of course. They don't sell beer at high school. At high school.
At the meeting, you all need to wear your name tags so we stand out.
I'm sure I'll be standing up for one day.
So if I put Gary Galvin.
I think they'll know you're not me.
Yes, you may keep your name
They
tag.
know who I am.
I'm born again Gary Galvin.
Got it. Howard, did you go to Lehigh or did you send kids there?
Both. Wow. I even graduated. I not only graduated.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a Pennsylvania Railroad shirt on. Are you from the Eastern East?
I grew up in New York.
Dick, real quick. It's Greg Hansen. I just want to say that I want to thank everybody from the city who helped every Wednesday night and all the hard work that they put in, making copies and stuff like that. So thank you guys. Also, I've really enjoyed working with all you guys on the committee. It's been a blast to get to know you and debate a little bit. So it's been a great pleasure to work with you all as well. So I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that. So thank you very much.
So you'll be sending our checks?
You didn't get it?
It's in the mail.
That's one of the cutbacks.
Don't like Jesse, right?
So we don't meet on the 19th, right?
Next time you're together is on the 26th.
Come the 19th if you want to hear about billboards.
Yeah, I saw that. They have a different way of describing it than billboards.
Let's try. Did I just join the Army again? Or join the Navy again?
We'll have their name listed as participants. This is the team ultimately ratified.
I mean, the slugs who didn't show up?
It's kind of like not being there at the Declaration of Independence.
I would like to also thank Howard and Mike for the wisdom that they brought to our committee, and just, you were invaluable to us. You were so helpful and much appreciated. I mean, we all did a really good job, but Howard had such a way of explaining things that were really, it made things that were complicated simple enough for all of us to understand, and really appreciated that.
Sure she did.